Riloe uploaded. So guess what we're doing this morning? Damn right. Put the volume up.
Europa, Eurasia, Euruska. Roving battalions of mechanized military factions engage each other in an eternal conflict whose meaning has been lost to time. The politicians who started the war are dead. AI algorithms direct fire teams like board game pieces. Towering mobile gun platforms become deities for the communities of soldiers at their feet embedded in trench lines for generations. Megacities are razed and then rebuilt overnight by 3D printers, the original shape and meaning of structures and monuments becoming warped, skewed by the hellfire around them. The line between weapon and man has been blurred. War itself is a symbiotic organism of flesh, steel, and gunpowder. You are in the middle of it all, and you're not on either side. The elevator pitch for this game is basically that. You're not this guy, you're this guy. And to be honest, while the idea of being a small scavenger in the middle of a big war is cool, it only slightly piqued my interest when these developers first contacted me. It wasn't until I sat down with them, really got to understand who these people specifically were, what it is that they were building and why, that my mind began to be blown. A game born from the ashes of once great AAA studio systems, a game which is as much an allegory for modern war and conflict as it is to the changing face of art and game development itself.
Whoa,
This
I'm like
is the Forever Winter.
amazed. Life was war. Wow. Forever Winter.
Through my short foray into content creation, several studios have approached me about covering their games, and very few have actually sparked my interest. The same can actually be said for my first contact with Fundog Studios. What the hell? I responded to the email anyway, mostly out of curiosity, rather than the usual interest in a brand integration or a, hey, please check out our game. Fundog simply said that their CEO wanted to chat with me, to consult. It's a somewhat odd request, so I followed up. Sitting down for that conversation might be one of the most important decisions that I've made in my short career in this space.
April 5th, 2024.
The first interaction that I had with CEO Miles Williams proved why this studio was different. I noticed some visual similarities between the Forever Winter's initial trailer and a stop-motion film by the name of Mad God, directed by Phil Tippett, animation genius behind Star Wars and some other classics. It's a verifiable hellscape, grotesque, oozing texture, and for the most part, people outside niche film and animation circles have never heard of it. Initially chatting with Miles about the game's visual style, I had forgotten this film's name. I was saying how the game had a bit of this and that. It reminds me of this animated movie. I forget the director, I said. Miles cuts in, oh yeah, dude, Phil Tippett, Mad God. I was legitimately taken aback. It felt like Miles had read my mind. But this has been what every conversation with the members of the Fundog Studios team has been like for me. A team that is so wired into a specific artistic subculture, so locked into an aesthetic quality of 90s anime, heavy metal model kit aesthetics that happens to be exactly my taste and sense of style. A sense of style that you don't really see very often anymore. This little anecdote is perfectly emblematic of the exact reason why this studio exists, why this game is being made at all, and why that matters.
You ever have one of those weeks where every day feels like a Monday?
To understand this team, you need to understand an impossibility in games development over the last 20 or so years. This studio is made up of artists, designers, and creatives who've worked in the AAA industry for decades, who've seen what it does to art. You ever notice how the concept art for characters in a game looks so much better than the final version? Or perhaps the best designs are just cut away entirely? You ever see a case where an artist or designer's original work was blatantly plagiarized by a larger company? The aversion to taking risks and bringing new ideas.
Exactly. They don't want to take risks and bringing new ideas and end up that the consumer is like, no, this is not what they want.
Is to the table the necessity at following trend and approachability. The point isn't to say that AAA games are all bad, or that the devs working within that system aren't capable of crafting fantastic works of art. Quite the opposite. But in order for artists to carry their ideas, themes, and goals through that system intact, the stars need to align. With tools like Unreal Engine 5 and the possibility of remote work, a window for talented people to carve their own niche without relying on the support of AAA, but also without its bureaucracy and restraint. For these industry vets, it was now or never. That frustration, however, it's not just the origins of this studio. It's also woven into the very world and tone of the game itself. The game is about scavenger, but mostly it's about being the little guy. Surrounded by giants all fighting their own war that'll stomp you out, cut you down as easily as it'll pass you by, unaware of your existence if you're lucky enough. You make your way in between the flames, picking up what scraps you can and using them to build yourself up bit by bit. Get too strong though, step out of your league, and there will always be a bigger fish ready to remind you of how small you are.
Oh,
I don't think that I could make this analogy any heavier-handed. Riloe, one of the lead concept artists and lore masters of the Forever Winters universe, told me that to him at least, the devs are the scavengers. They pick up what scraps they can from the industry, tools that would otherwise bring their demise, and if they're fortunate and driven enough, they'll be able to use what they can to craft something that is true to their ideals, that helps them through this war. These ideas and themes of the Forever Winter actually date almost a decade back, in times before generative AI or industry-wide layoffs, and it all feels chillingly prophetic now.
Is war, and no, war is up.
Equally prophetic, however,
in the world is war. I like that.
Are the larger themes the world of the Forever Winter deals with. In our first meeting, Miles pulled up his little lore and concept art file, and an image popped up. So yeah, some of this stuff is a little not safe for work, he says, almost embarrassed, as I'm greeted with a main battle tank covered in a neat layer of stripped and bound corpses. It's not clear if they're here for intimidation, for ballistic protection, or for field rations, or a grotesque combination of the three. Yeah, that's the vibe that this game has. Forever Winter is about war, but in a way that is far more nuanced than the average first or third person shooter. Miles gave me the analogy that if Gears of War was a real scenario, if you were actually there, it wouldn't be an action-adventure game. It'd be horror. I call this game an anti-shooter because of its mechanics, which I will come back to later, but also because of its themes and design. It's invariably anti-war media, investigating the logical progression of mechanized armed conflict, a future where war has become religion, where a gun becomes a monument, where machines of war are icons to be prayed to. Forever Winter says, yeah, keep it up, world, this is where we're going. This game is set on a future Earth. In early iterations of the game, Fundog were much more literal with their imagery, hitting very close to home with their references to real conflict, in order to touch on increasingly dark subject matter while also telling—
Oh, chat. They gave me a large smoothie instead of a medium one. Let's go.
their own story, which felt both respectful and allowed creative freedom. Concept artists such as Riloe felt that stylization was the key direction to take. In the same way that a fable tells a universal story through simplistic and approachable presentation, the Forever Winter's visual style makes clear references to recognizable imagery, warped through a neo-mythology of the game's setting and conflict, similarly to how 2003's The Second Renaissance repeatedly uses striking, grounded imagery to tell a science fiction story that has very real implications. Buildings and statues warping like data-moshed visual artifacts after years of 3D printing bots having forgotten their original shape. Prayers and dedications etched onto the body armor of mech units, graveyards forming canyons and valleys as thousands of bodies, weapons, and refuse pile around the trenches. Flamethrower units wear spacesuits, relics of a lost civilization, once beacons of hope for a future in the stars, now simply coveted for the flame-retardant properties of their material. One of the things that draws me into Forever Winter's world is that despite being a game about scavs wearing gigantic backpacks dodging cyborgs dropped from stealth bombers, the story, tone, and world feels creepily, unsettlingly real. The analogies about humanity being wired for adoration of idols, about how algorithms and artificial intelligences are becoming figures of worship, defining one's worldview, who they hate, fight, or love. It's all incredibly serious subject matter, told through the lens of a cool mech game. So why place so much attention on the lore, meta-references, and philosophy rather than just breaking down the game's mechanics?
Because it's what surrounds the game and makes it unique.
Honestly, because it's so interesting to me that it'll receive its entire own video, breaking down my own gameplay, my experiences, and the details of the complex AI systems the game brings forward. But more importantly, because this level of world building with subject matter, imagery, and philosophy flowing straight out of the minds of the artists, this is the level of soul and depth that I've been seeking in my little niche of interest for so many years, and it feels like a moment in art and gaming that hasn't happened in a long, long time. That depth behind the art is exactly the aspect of gaming that I always loved the most when I was young, why I used to browse concept art forums and spend hours reading the transcripts of NPC dialogue. This isn't all to say, however, that the Forever Winter's lore masks a simple, dumb co-op shooter. The world and tone of the game was developed right alongside the gameplay. A style of gameplay that I've always wanted, but never really seen attempted.
Voyeurism. Yeah, you don't partake, you look at the combat.
One of the core
more than
ideas beyond
anything,
that
I
you
guess.
are not this guy, you are this guy, is a concept that Miles likes to call combat voyeurism. Essentially, it's what it sounds like. You're not the center of these battles, you're always on the periphery. As you move around the battlefield, certain silhouettes will pop up, and as you play, you'll gather more understanding of what they mean. There's 2 MBTs, there's a Eurasian strike team backing up an Exo, there's a group of European EOD and
shit.
cyborgs, there's a duo of Euruscan Olgas, there's drones coming from behind me, and UAVs in front of me, and oh Jesus Christ, what is that? Anticipating how units will
Jesus
move, track,
Christ.
and
Jesus fucking Christ. What in the Jesus was that?
engage each other, and how you can scoop up the scraps of the battle stealthily. That's the core of what this game is about, and it leads to some really interesting moments. The movement, looting, and shooting is super simple. The loop is entirely based around emergence, player choice, and tactics, a smash between roguelike, RTS, and third-person shooter stealth gameplay. The world exists despite you rather than for you, and how you navigate it will change with every mission,
Nice.
every combination of scenarios that the game rolls for you. More specific ground-level mechanics like threat rating, aggro pacing, weight class, the pathing, and AI director. You won't understand any of what I just said, but you will soon again in the next video. But suffice it to say this, the Forever Winter is basically a large-scale battle simulator where you're stuck right on the ground in the middle of it. The world will react to you, but these armies are here to mess each other up first.
Not
and
you, yeah.
You're also there.
Your collateral damage.
One of the key original inspirations for the game, besides the Animatrix and 90s mecha anime of course, was the opening to Terminator 2, the massive mechanized war where humans skitter around like
course.
rats in a maze below ground, massively outmatched by the horrors above them, taking whatever tiny chances they can to strike back. The other analogy of the gameplay loop, the one that I actually find the most accurate, is the legendary long take near the end of Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men. Rebels and UK military
seen
clash
that.
in a slum, and the hero has to get to an objective while dodging the bullets and avoiding either side, viewing him as the target. This isn't to say that you can't fight in this game. You can, and you're gonna have to. But the armies as a whole won't perceive you as a legitimate threat unless you give them a reason to. As for how that's decided, it isn't straightforward. And again, you're gonna get sick of hearing me say this, just subscribe and wait for that
Depends
full
on the-
breakdown.
Gotcha. It depends on, I guess, the context and the way you approach them.
That's a lot of conceptual high-level discussion that I just threw at you, but I've actually played this game for like a month or so now, so what is it really like? Back at the beginning, I mentioned how Fundog contacted me with the interest that I consult for them. I'm not gonna lie, at first I didn't really understand what this meant or why FDS would care about my opinion, but
Because
with
you're
thousands of
that
hours not
guy.
only playing extraction and tactical shooters, but analyzing them from a game design perspective, I'm able to provide input on the game's feel, how it plays from a gamer's or consumer's perspective, while articulating my reactions in ways that are
Because this guy translates the fan's opinion in a very smart, concisive, and intelligent way. That is the only reason. No, that is one of the reasons why they consulted him. And he has reach and impact. So a AAA studio is scared of him. As an indie developer, you want him on your team because he's going to give you legitimate feedback and he has reach to call you out if you did bullshit. He has the audience to call you out and say, I don't agree with you guys. So it puts pressure on yourself to perform and deliver a game worth playing. That's why. That's why AAA developers don't want him, because they're like, he's going to bring dirt on our name, our perfect company that makes over $1 billion. One, we're too good for him, and B, like, he makes bad publicity on our choices.
intelligent enough that they can actually help the dev team build a better game. I've been playing the game and giving lists of feedback on and off over the last couple months.
You see that one right there?
Should I shoot him?
Dude, let's see, man. Yeah.
Got his ass.
First off, there are many gameplay elements of the Forever Winter that are super unfinished, and to be honest, I've never played a game in such a mid-development state. The game is, of course, gorgeous. The interesting result of a team of concept artists having direct creative control over a game is AAA
Amazing.
quality visual design, right alongside utterly work-in-progress core systems. Despite some extreme jank in the controls and movement, the emergence created by the AI systems is completely evident. Without giving too much detail away, I was immediately struck by how much the world seemed to not revolve around the player, in a way that goes against
That's
everything
amazing.
that shooters have always taught me to expect. A ground unit will charge straight at me and I'll take cover expecting the worst. They'll open up with a barrage of fire only for me to turn and realize that they were targeting another unit behind me that I hadn't noticed the whole time. I'll take out a
So
lingering
cool.
sniper team on the edge of a battle, and a fire team will come and investigate the sound, but I then simply move around the corner, and there's zero way that the investigators will instantly know where I was or even how the snipers died, unless there was a UAV overhead that was scouting my position. One of the most memorable moments was when I first played. A T-90 was blocking our path to extract, and I couldn't see any way around it. Just gotta wait for him to be distracted and we book it, Miles says to me. A group of heavily armed troops appears from our left and I think we're done for. But then they start opening fire and the MBT's machine gun lights up as something that we can't see engages the tank from afar. We crouch just feet behind the T-90 and its supporting fire team and slink away into the fog with the firefight continuing.
There you
behind
go.
us.
That's amazing.
At every point in that encounter, I was expecting the tanks and AI to simply magically notice us when we got close enough, as every third-person action game has taught me to expect. But that's where
Nope.
this game is different. In between the jankiness
Because you are not the target, you're a survivor, and you try to make your way through this wasteland.
of getting stuck on collisions, frames dropping, enemies glitching out and flying into the air, these emergent moments happen literally all the time when I'm playing, and there are too many examples to list in this video without spoiling mechanics. But suffice it to say that when the game's working as intended, it feels like that Children of Men scene all the way through. I'm not being paid by Fundog Studios for this playtesting and feedback,
Well,
nor
kind
am I
of
being
was implied.
contracted to continue helping them with development in any way. Which maybe means that I'm being robbed financially, but what I hope it actually means is that you, the viewer and gaming fan, can actually trust my opinion.
And it's like a sort of mutual interest when you think about it. Because this guy's living his passions, being allowed to make videos which will ultimately profit in a way. Might not be big money. This guy's living his dream of reviewing and helping in a game design way and getting somewhat paid for it, while also being part of this incredible indie team that is making this beautiful masterpiece of a game. Because this is not just a game, they're aiming to make a piece of art, and it shows, right? In my opinion, it shows. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it shows that these guys are interested in making art, which arguably video games should be. Every video game should be considered as an art form. Why? Because it takes passion, it takes skill, and just meticulous work. But big game studios sometimes lose that. Often lose that, and that's why you see a lot of big companies with big budgets and everything fuck up, because you're not letting the artists and the people decide for themselves, right? That's a big issue.
When I talk about this game, part of the reason that they've allowed me access to their main development build is of course for giving feedback, but because they're proud enough of the systems that they're building that they're confident in letting me check them out, however
Exactly.
unfinished some aspects may be.
And they're open enough to criticism, to listen. That's a big... To me, that's one of the best qualities you can have as a self-respecting human. Being able to take criticism and respond to it in a smart way. I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. But when someone throws criticism at me, I listen. I listen. And if I'm pissed, I'll take a few minutes to think about it. And then I'll come up with a response. Because if someone's saying something, most likely, if they're not a bad person, and we can scope out who's a bad person by how they approach things with you. But if someone is being respectful and saying something that you don't like, the fact that they're being respectful can often mean that there is something wrong with the situation. And keep that in mind, chat. Someone who legitimately wants good out of you or wants you to perform better will not insult you just for the sake of insulting you. They will give you criticism and try to absorb that criticism, and doesn't mean they're 100% right. It just means that you need to absorb that criticism and evaluate for yourself what you can do to make yourself better, right? I feel like... Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense. Come on. So yeah, that's my lesson for today.
Miles always compares me to a combat journalist for the Forever Winter, the Evan Wright to the first Recon Marines in Generation Kill. But to be honest, I'm no journalist, and I think I'm actually quite a bit more opinionated than Wright ever was. I used to want to be a concept artist myself.
Yeah, but at some point you're a journalist he's a journalist for the people's opinion, right? He's the journalist that views things as the side of the fans, of the hardcore devoted fans of video games. So he's bringing the facts from the opinions that the community has. I don't know if that makes sense. So in a way, he is a journalist.
Seeing the industry going in a direction I wasn't fond of killed a lot of that passion for me. And corresponding with a team of people made up of some of the literal artists whose work inspired me when I was younger, that's been a pretty fascinating and honestly emotional
someone worked on the Battlefront games, like the originals?
experience, and it's totally revitalized my...
I just want to say real quick, I used to love Battlefront 2. Okay, side note here. Battlefront 2, I used to... Hold on. Battlefront 2 PS2, man. This game right here. I used to spend hours and hours on end. I remember one day, it was a rainy day outside. My mom was like, well, have fun, kid. I guess you're playing video games today. So I was like, fuck yeah, dude. So I selected every single map. And I played every single one of them right after the other. And it was just so sick. And one day, I did that one day. And then another day, I did the same thing, but I played the other side that I played. So like, I played this game in and out. I know so much features. It was just, oh. And once I came back to it, like 2 years later, I was probably like, what? I'm trying to think. Around 10. I was playing this game around 10 years old. And when I came back to it at 12, 13 years old, I started to enjoy the space battles. And, well, it's not really a remaster. It's a take on the original franchise. Anyways, I learned to love the space battles because you could actually infiltrate the enemy's ship to destroy it from the inside instead of just firing from the outside where you needed to take out the interior, the shields, and then... So I could see that if you had a team of multiple people, you could have someone... Because the hardest thing was getting rid of the shield at first. So you could have someone infiltrate, like a squad infiltrate the ships to take out the shield generators, and then you could have focused efforts on the main parts of the ship, which was awesome. So yeah, this game had so much depth, and it was in 2005. Yeah, man, this game was amazing. Yeah, there you go. These fights. So I'll zoom in. So all the little triangles are objectives that you need to take out, but you could also go into the little bay area over here with your ship, get out of your ship, and target these from the inside as well. That's insane. And you had ways to control the guns that are on the side to prevent entrance. So like I never got the luck to play this game online, but online this fucking game could have been sick, dude. Anyways, side note finished.
Hope for the future of games. The Fundog creative team's ultimate goal is to craft a world that is so specifically uniquely itself that no amount of future intervention could ever be able to kill the original vision. Artists, designers, and creatives in large industries always pour...
That's very much what it feels like. The vision and the art design is so strongly intertwined with the game that you cannot kill it.
Their heart and soul into a project. And
well, you cannot kill the art designs. You can kill the project if you're a fucking asshole. Okay? But you can't kill the game's design because you're essentially killing the game.
More often than we realize, their creations are yanked away from them to appease a larger system, and they fail. When the driving goal for development becomes risk mitigation, the soul of the project dies. A lack of outside funding and support that AAA provides might mean a less universally recognized product, one which may not tick all the boxes in the way that a big game can.
But
it'll also mean that the idea being worked towards is true in a way that approachable mass.
This is not something that I like, but to me this is so unique and such an art piece, and like I like the philosophical concepts around it. I don't like maybe the design and the themes. I think it's a bit too dark for me. But guess what? I'm gonna play it even still because I know this game is gonna bring some lessons and it's gonna make me think. That's what's beautiful. And I think there's gonna be a lot of people like me that are gonna be so impressed by this game and the vision that they're gonna play it anyways. So you can't say it's gonna be a niche game. It's gonna be a niche genre, but it has a potential to be a game that everyone's gonna check out simply because how beautiful the game was crafted, beautifully the game was crafted, and how passionate the developers were in telling this story.
Media rarely gets the chance to be. Fundog attempts to set an example for indie dev studios that making something original and different might be less popular, it might be less polished, but by taking bigger risks, by being more specific, by having more heart, it has the potential to hit deeper for those core fans than a game made for everyone ever could. Miles originally told me that the game was for the homies. And while I realize that he said this meaning his artist friends, industry colleagues, and co-workers over the last decades, I feel like, fortuitously, I also sort of fall into this category. The Forever Winter is a game of passion, a game that would never get made in the AAA system. And these devs now get to take risks that they've never been allowed to take.
Cool,
they're not 100% certain that everything will work, and that's actually the beauty of it. They get to try.
Chills, dog, chills.
Riloe told me, if we're gonna fail, at least we'll fail together. But in many ways, in creating a living, playable art book and crafting a world that is unique and steadfast in its tone and message, they've already succeeded. With all the chaos and uncertainty of today, seeing a piece of art like this come to fruition gives me confidence that gaming might have a brighter future than the world the Forever Winter foresees.
Yeah, and I think we're right at that shift at the moment where games who deserve it are getting pushed. Like Helldivers was doing really good before the PS4, and Sony were like baiting the developer into like, come on, we helped publish your game, come on, make everyone have a PSN account. And then these small developers shat in their shorts. And they're like, okay, fine. And they bended to Sony's thing, and it backfired. And that was a lesson to Sony. Don't fuck with the creators, because you might have helped publish their game. Don't fuck with their vision, because their fans are here for their vision, not yours. And I feel like that's an important part that's coming back lately. You see so many games popping off and coming back. Like, what's that one game that everyone plays? Fuck, I forgot. There's Helldivers that was kind of a breath of fresh air. I forget, oh my god. Anyways, I forgot another game, but you see, like, I feel like we're slowly getting sick of the bullshit, and we're moving back to what the consumers want. And that's why small indie games are getting so much more traction than before. Because you can do a lot more now with the tools that are given. I mean, just Unreal Body Cam. There you go, Body Cam. Just with Body Cam, you can see what a small developer can do to change the game. Like, Unreal Engine 5 is so well optimized that you can have a small team and make a masterpiece out of it.
I guess I'm just happy to come along for that ride. I'm Riloe. I like to talk about things that I think are cool. Subscribe for more like this, and I'll catch you soon. Thanks
Already subscribed, bro. Riloe is goated, dog. Riloe is the GOAT, okay? One of the best YouTube channels out there for any sort of tactical shooter genre or just war themes in general in video gaming industry. That's it.
With new jams and to advance your prehistoric, who I be is the question and the answer is rhetoric. With new jams and to advance your prehistoric, who I be is the question and the answer is rhetoric. Who you messing with? Who you playing with? 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 I'm the best. I'm the best.